Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better technology. My name is Andrew Romeo, and today I've got with me my co-host Anthony Sapunzas. On this podcast, we're lucky enough to interview Robert Ventor. Robert is from Eazi-Tender. Eazi-Tender is a tendering system that has been built out of South Africa, and we learnt about his journey as a non-tech building a technology product. Now, Robert has significant domain knowledge in the tendering space and even in the project management space. He talks about how he managed, at points in his career, 43 projects at once, applied for over 400 tenders throughout that process, and basically eventually found what the real problem of what he was trying to solve. Now, he started off his vision and journey with a big picture plan. And eventually, after 4 years and going through development teams and different trials and tests and even startup incubators, even got access into an accelerator program out of Silicon Valley, which is pretty cool to hear, Robert found that he was focusing too big, too broadly, and actually dived into a significant problem that was in the marketplace that he could solve quickly, easily, and efficiently. You'll learn about how Robert, over this 4 year journey, was able to, about 3.5 years in, build a product in 3 months and then start picking up customers. That learning will actually inspire you to think differently about how you're building your products. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you really got involved with Eazi-Tender and where that all came about.
I've been in the project management industry for about, say, the last 10 years.
Okay.
And a lot of work on major projects like power stations. I did a lot of work for government projects.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see how, like especially in South Africa, there hasn't been a lot of adoption in tech in that sort of project reporting space, project management space. I mean, you have your standard tools like a Microsoft Projects and all the rest of that. But if I can say the level of adoption, digital adoption in that space just really hadn't kicked off over the last, I'd say, 10 years. You know, you got your big players in the market, but it still doesn't mean that the market takes on or the market adopts that technology, either due to a high price point or to a level of complexity.
Okay.
So for me, like I ran multiple projects. I think at one stage I was probably running about 43 projects at one go. Within the construction space.
That's a lot of projects.
And yeah, a lot of projects, a little bit of sleep.
Yes, I imagine so.
And I eventually just started creating my own tools, whether they were in Excel. I think I managed to create a program management dashboard out of Excel.
Okay.
Because there's no way you can run that many projects and try reports on them and try to keep on top of things without having the right kind of systems in place.
Yeah.
And my employers at the time were just not interested in any form of technology that could simplify that. You know, once again, that's a cost point for them.
Yes.
So I eventually designed my own construction project management software. But when I say design, I have no technical background at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that I could do that is I actually created it through Wix, because that's the only way I could envision that.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a website builder. Wix.
Yep.
And I created my entire sort of software, the construction project management software design through that.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I got into an incubator here in South Africa with the Dutch embassy.
Yes.
Spent about a year working through that, and you're trying to close investment or try to get new customers based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, without a technical co-founder, without any technical co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we could go and raise the money with what I've designed and the few customers that were keen to sign up. I'd probably gone through 2 different attempted to set up 2 dev relationships in that time. And I think I've mentioned to Andrew before, like my very first one, what I did is I actually just tested a very small component of our software. It was a meeting management component, just to see whether that relationship would actually work out. Am I articulating what a developer needs to see and hear? And is the developer giving me what I envisage? And that, I think we probably worked together for about 6 months, and eventually I pulled the plug on that I need to know that whatever I'm putting, if I'm getting the customers to the table, and I need to know that whoever my development partner would have been would be able to deliver on that.
So first and foremost, you went in and put your concepts down in Wix. Did you create like just a flow website in terms of how the whole website would look and feel? Is that where you started?
Yeah, so I think it was for the look and feel, but also for the information flow or the data flow, if we can call it that. A lot of people come up with an idea and it still becomes a bit disjointed. You either have a very deep technical understanding and then it's not user friendly.
Yes.
Or it's the other way around. You've created this thing, but it has no technical merit behind it.
Get it. Okay. So that's where you started. So what was your first dev team attempt? Was that the attempt where you tested something out, or did you go in and just look for someone to actually take on the whole project and deliver the thing from start to finish?
So initially I wanted to get somebody to do the whole project. But I mean, in terms of the sort of size of the scope of work for that design or that entire construction project management software, I think just my design document for that is about 264 pages.
Significant.
So they had plenty of content to go off.
Yes.
Yeah. So initially what I decided to do is just take one component out of all of that and test that and see whether this particular developer could do this component, develop this component. But it was an interesting, if I can say, an interesting exercise to run.
Okay.
Because firstly, that's my official first dev sprint, if I could call it that.
Yes.
And I think from there, like you kind of start to see the difference between, you have an idea, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're from a corporate background or whatever, coming in with an idea doesn't mean it necessarily translates to some proper piece of software.
No, really, it's all about that execution, right? You may, as many ideas out there in a marketplace, and generally there could be 101 people who have the same idea as you, but really how you execute it is number one. So take us through.
Yeah.
So you started off, you did a test with that developer. What happened? So you really didn't get much value out of the first step, or how did that approach go?
Yeah, so essentially he did develop what I was looking for, but in terms of how long this process took, and what that final sort of look and feel, and from a customer or customer experience component, I don't think that product would have sold. It had the functionality, but from a customer experience, guys don't want something that you're not going to buy $1 million house if it looks like a £5 house. If I can put it like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then that team, were they like a local team? Would you go to a web developer?
How did you find them?
How did you find the team and then judge that they could do it initially?
So this was just somebody that was in my network. He sits at a CIO level or CTO level within the corporate business, but runs his own dev business on the side as well.
Okay.
And he had big clients. He had guys like Massmart and things. So he had very big clients, but just like I think when looking to go into relationships like that, you also have to understand what their capacity is and their level of interest.
Yep.
So is it just a side project, or do they really have capacity for that?
Get it. So did you jump into a relationship looking for a dev partner to actually assist you through the process? Was that the type of arrangement you were establishing?
Yeah. So essentially, I wanted a dev partner for this. Maybe someone that I could build that entire software together with over the long term. Quite happy to sort of do whatever the equity splits were. Just so I could get something out there.
Yeah. So the challenge that we find with that sort of world, I think you sort of stumbled across it, is yes, you can go out into the marketplace and hunt down people that might do an equity split, but then when money gets a little bit tight, those companies generally go and follow the money trail. So it becomes a little bit challenging for them because they are seen, if you're going to go out there and do that, they're technically an investor in your product, but then they're also delivering on the investment. So they've really got a two-pronged approach here. So they're paying one for these resources, but then they've got to manage a project and work through collectively. So it does become challenging to find the right person to do that. So I'd love to see how the rest of that journey went.
And then you touch that up. How did you find that your project manager experience in the construction industry mapped over to your first dev sprint and in the software space?
Yeah, that's a good question.
one of my biggest strengths in project management would be project planning.
Okay.
So a lot of like I mentioned earlier, I created a design document of 260 odd pages.
Yeah.
So for me, bringing that into that space, like I think it helped quite a lot. Like you can foresee sort of what the process needs to be in terms of the way you build your product. So I think that helped a lot. I think it was just more my lack of understanding in terms of how the dev side and the dev relationship works. That technical experience of what leads up to a sprint. How do you bring that all together in order to create a product? The way that I create a product now in comparison to then are worlds apart.
Yeah. So did you find it challenging trying to gauge what they were telling you was right about the feature, or how long things should take and what their estimations were? And if they had problems, were they throwing things out to you and it was going above your head and you weren't sure that they were actually addressing them properly?
Yeah, so for me, one of the biggest challenges there was that, if the person's giving you based on their limited capacity, that build can take something where, if they estimate it to be 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever for a small component,
Yes.
and it takes 2 or 3 months, I think that adds to a level of frustration between the two parties. You know what I mean?
Get it. So was that the challenge of they're not allocating resources to the project, or just them underestimating in totality?
I think so. The challenge was the element of capacity and time, but then also on what was delivered as the final product. Final, like having designed that component in a Wix and stuff, you're already sort of designing the front end. You're showing what the feel, what the look should be, because from a customer experience or from a sort of a user experience, you want something that's simple. You want something that the guys can just see that flow, not just the functionality of what it is. So I think the combination of the two was, for me, is what kind of brought the end to that sort of that partnership or that part of my journey.
Okay, so if anyone's out there looking to start a project and looking for equity, I think probably one of the biggest learnings out of that is what is the resource allocation that you're going to bind to this every week, every month, like at least. Then if you had some ownership on that, you would get some more clarity around what is actually possible. Because I think, and I've been involved in projects like that where you jump in and you get involved in helping a little founder out, and then basically say, yeah, it's probably going to take a week or two to put this together, and then resources get handed on different projects and it takes a month, right? So it's all about how committed you are to that project. So I think that's an important point to take away. You're going to look at an equity split, look at getting an actual, all right, we're going to allocate 20 hours a week to this. At least you got some clarity on what's actually achievable. Or if it's 10 hours a week, it's 10 hours a week. But yeah, you need to really know where you stand.
Like my entire journey with developers, I think the communication component is the most important. If guys are just open and honest, and upfront and say, listen, I've only got 5 hours a week for you, or I've got the 20 hours, or whatever it may be, that really is a key component. Like I'm the type of person that if you tell me you're going to be able to do this within this particular timeline, I will action every other component of that strategy around that. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone to customers, even within the last year, and said, okay, well, this will be ready at this point, and gone and got the business, gone and lined it up.
Yes.
And guys were like, as soon as we see that, we'll pay you the money.
Get it.
And the delivery on the other side of that component, it just doesn't happen. So I think that communication structure is probably the biggest, one of the biggest components, whether product or product relationship really fails or succeeds.
Yeah, it's communication's key, especially when you're maintaining a lot of moving pieces at once. So you can imagine from having 47 projects running at a time, having all that in the right order and all teeing up and lining up, and then you having your communication based around that, and then your other strategies. If one part fails, it's just a domino effect and blows everything out.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of your product, so you're looking at managing projects, and it was delivered to the construction space. Was that correct, or is it not in that space at all?
The entire product feature in itself had to combine 3 components. So obviously I was looking at a cloud solution that would, bring everything into one workspace. So it would be tendering, would be the actual project management that happens down on site.
Okay.
And then obviously in project procurement.
Yes.
Because what I found is that there are so many different solutions for each component. So, I might use one software for this, one software for that, one software for this. And sometimes there's very little integration between any of those. So eventually I'm using 10 different tools to work on one project where, like from the experience that I had over the last 10 years in that space, bringing one solution into one space would really help a lot of people. And once again, that improves the communication structure on a project between myself, an engineer, an architect, the site manager. Everyone's on the same page. So for me, that was the intention behind that.
That was intention. That was a problem you're trying to solve, basically. Get it? Okay. So in terms of, you've moved on from that previous developer now. What was your next step? So you tested him, or those guys didn't work. What did you end up doing next?
So I'd come out of that incubator, and I got invited to an accelerator in the US called One Traction.
Okay.
And what that program, the particular program that I was invited to, is to build your MVP product in I think it was a 12-week period. Very intense program, but you had to have had a technical co-founder with you. They give you the tools. They give you the tools in terms of what you could use to build your MVP, but within such a short space of time to try and learn like a product prototyping tool is quite, I think, overwhelming in a sense if you're not a technical person.
Yeah, it's probably to deliver something that quickly.
An MVP, if you have no background.
Yeah, you'd need a significant background there.
Yeah, so I managed to stay in that program for about 6 weeks, but then I just couldn't do anything more. I couldn't, even if I had to have brought in a partner at that point for them to kind of understand what's happening in this program and only have 6 weeks left to deliver, would be next to impossible. I'd stepped out of that program, unfortunately, I think regrettably as well. If I could have stayed in there, I think that could have changed many things. A boy working from South Africa, working with a Silicon Valley program could have really been a game changer.
Can I ask a question about how you applied for that and how you actually got accepted? Because some people might be interested in that.
So I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If that's probably my best place for growing my business, and it's really shown this year. But during that period, I'd done a ton of networking in that space, trying to find investors, trying to reach out into other programs, trying to see where I could, out of South Africa, where could I try get some form of expansion or growth with what I had. And I'd come across somebody who'd seen what I was doing. I met with one of his partners here, and from there they'd gone through my whole strategy and recommended that I get invited into that program.
Oh, very
but
good.
it is by invite only from what I saw.
Okay.
Get it.
So just fortunate, right person, right place, right time.
Oh,
wrong technical person.
But in essence, it's a good point there. You've actually networked, you've gone out, you put yourself out there, and actually been searching for some help. And you found it, right? So it's not generally right person, right time. But sometimes, if you put yourself out there, you will find something that's going to help. But I'm wondering, did they know that you're non-technical walking into that, and did they offer some help around that, or just expected you to go in and take it on?
Yeah, I think they expected me to take it on.
Okay.
In every investment discussion, I've always made sure that everyone knows that I'm not a technical person.
Yep.
I can design product. I can sort of, create the concept and the strategy and everything around it, but definitely nowhere near. I can probably just do a navigation bar, and that's as far as I get.
Get it. Okay, that makes sense.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So you exit out of One Traction. What did you do next? So what was your next step?
So I then spent probably the next 2 years trying to find investors that could do the development. I'd come across 2 guys that had dev houses or dev businesses here in South Africa.
Okay.
And I got into discussions with both of them. One had a global practice.
Yep.
So very strong on the Microsoft stack, good exposure, big Microsoft partner here locally.
Yes.
And I was in that discussion for probably 8 months. It was a very long time. You hold off. At the time, I thought it'd be best to hold off talking to any other investors because I've got somebody here. When you're 8 months into the discussion,
yes,
you kind of want to see where that goes. And for me, once again, it was the frustration of, are we discussing this for 8 months? Where are we going? Is this happening? And like, if you can kind of imagine, the journey up to this point was probably 2 years prior to that.
Okay, so
So
2 years.
sitting for another 8 months, you're starting to get a bit frustrated. You're like, are we doing this or are we not?
Yes.
Yep.
You know, I'm not asking you to put money in. I'm just asking you, can you develop? Because, you know, you've approached me on this component as well.
Yeah, so you're almost 3 years in now and still no product to show. You've got a product design, 260 pages of documentation, you've got a Wix platform, you've tested some developers, and you're in this conversation and thinking, probably getting a little bit frustrated, I would imagine, at this stage.
Yeah, no commitment.
Absolutely. Like, you want to see some form of progress.
Yes.
Everyone around you as well wants to see some form of progress. You know, the guys don't want to just see you as the guy that has the idea.
Yeah, get it.
You know, even potential business partners, you know, whether it's in that friends or family circle or if it's sort of guys that are investors in your circle, they want to see that you can take something from ideation to product.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, right? It's not everyone can do it, and that's why there's 101 ideas out there, but only that one actually hits the mark. And it is, once again, execution. So now, did you actually land that as an investment, or was that basically, did it really go anywhere?
No, I think we both just got to the point. So to give you the background on that one, these guys were looking to build their own construction software. And they'd found my business pitch on an investment platform. And that's kind of how it mixed. So there was quite a good sort of synchronization or synergy, if I could put it like that.
Yep.
But I think they had a different sort of product map going forward. Like, they were trying to work on something that linked into some other Microsoft products. And the size of this particular build, I think, might not have fitted into that product map that they were, or that product route that they were setting out.
Okay, so they had their own sort of product in mind, and then they tried to leverage you. Like, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, get it.
So like, we both eventually just walked away. I went and found another dev partner from there who eventually did build the MVP for me.
Okay.
But like, once again, that was one of those communication things. You're now getting to the point where you're quite desperate. You know, you now I'm 3 years and a bit into this process. I haven't seen anything come of it. You've been putting money into this all along. You know, you think that, okay, well, sometimes you'll put, you know, I'll just cover this. I'm going to cover the cost of, you know, hosting this and the cost of designing this on a monthly basis.
Yep.
Those little costs, they kind of start running up as time goes by. You can imagine 3 years down the line what you've spent in trying to create something where you're not even at an MVP stage yet.
Yes, I haven't got anything off the ground.
So for me, I eventually got into a discussion with a guy, and he was like, okay, I could do, we decided we're not going to build a whole construction software. We'll go into Eazi-Tender, put that into the market, start obviously making money from that, and then, you know, work towards the bigger picture. So which was refreshing to see that somebody had actually taken a step back to say, okay, listen, we don't have to look at the whole big picture of a whole construction software with procurement, with project management. Take one component, let's build that, let's see how that goes, and then we go from there.
That's good advice. Yeah, great advice that actually got finally, because trying to build what I imagine you're trying to build in terms of the big plan is a big project. And if that was said maybe in the first step, where you had limited resources, but someone was willing to jump in, maybe it might have been a little bit better solution if you went down that path a little bit earlier. Yeah,
like, I wish, if I had to look back at it now, I would have definitely taken that initial design, gone and sat with a development company or 3 or 4 of them to get an idea of sort of what the cost of that entire build would be, how long those components would be, what would be my best access to market here, and then gone out to my customers to say, okay, out of these particular solutions, which would be best? You know, would you look at this component right now, and could you be an early adopter for that particular stage of that business?
Yeah, because you're trying to solve a lot of problems there. You're not just trying to solve one. And when you mentioned it's a full, from start to finish of a project management journey, you need to really find that burning problem. What is it? Where can you solve it? And how can it add value? And so doing that through just the Eazi-Tendering component makes a lot of sense now. But how long did it take you to get to that realization over 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say about 3.5.
Okay.
3.5 years to get to that particular point and to get to that understanding. And you'd think that, like, having gone through those particular programs now, and you've been through this incubator, you've been through that accelerator, or whatever they may be, and the level of mentorship that's sort of put into those programs, that they kind of give you that advice from an early stage, being a startup or coming from that ideation component. But that's the lessons you learn along this entrepreneurial journey. Like, it's never going to be as simple as that.
Yeah, and when you sort of had that realization that don't try and cover the entire ecosystem at once and get everyone involved and focus on the tendering component, was that like, did it feel like it was a simple idea and that's what it should have been from the start? Or is it just because you were focused on the wrong thing, or like on the whole platform overall, that you didn't see it?
I absolutely should have just gone from a more focused, smaller product from the very start. Like, I believe that had I even got Eazi-Tender as it stands right now is quite unique to the South African market. It's a space where there is no innovation. So I could have taken that even 3 years back, it would still be the same level of innovation.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I didn't have to go the whole big picture. Like, sometimes you think a bit bigger than what you're capable of doing.
You just need to go on that journey to do the learning, really.
It takes a bit of time, right? And it's what is an MVP, and it's probably the biggest question that people ponder over and they don't really get. An MVP is not about the minimum viable product across your whole idea either. It can be what's minimum viable within a section of your product that's actually going to add some value to some people. And it seems like the tender component did for you. So if you're going to develop a minimum viable, focus in on not even 20% of the functionality. How much of the functionality would Eazi-Tender be on the whole project side? What would you estimate that to be?
I'd probably estimate it to probably be 20 to 30% of the entire thing.
Yeah. And that's a really good starting point for everyone out there. If you've got an idea, pare it back to 20%. Try and get it back to that 20, 30% max to get your MVP, because you can have so many dreams about a product, but developing technology is continuous. And if you can pare it back to something small, get it into the marketplace, get user feedback, and you can actually evolve from there. And generally what we found in the marketplace is you put that product out there, and then you'll get other feedback around different things that you haven't even thought about developing. And your iteration will evolve from the customer, not from your head, which is a really good place to start.
Yeah, that's such a true statement. Like, when we look at what I've done with that initial MVP with Eazi-Tender, like, we were literally just trying to cut down the administrative component in tendering by at least 50%.
Okay.
And that's a big pain point for something where you're spending maybe 100 hours on. If you can cut that down to 50 hours, and that level of effort can be focused on that remaining 50 hours that you would have used could be used on, proposal management or research or client research or business development relationships. That's a big thing. I think that had I just looked at that focus point, that's a big pain point to relieve.
Yeah.
It definitely comes down to that you don't have to, you could just solve one problem. If you can solve one problem, you'll get a client.
Yes. And that's, instead of saying on the 20 to 30% of the functionality, I'm not sure where I read this or who coined the term, but it's minimum value product. So don't build the minimum viable, build the minimum product that's going to bring you value. Not the minimum thing that's can run majority of it or a chunk of it. It's focus on the feature that's going to bring the most value as quick as possible. So you're saying if you can cut down that time in a small task, you will find the customers. There will be someone who can use that and do it.
Yeah, it's adding value directly to them. So
focusing on the value first.
And I think what you said there, you got to a bigger problem than the problem you originally started out was building a platform that everyone could communicate across the product, the journey of project management, and that was from tendering all the way through. But the real problem that you've really got to now is solving something very specific. So it's a little bit more niche. So it's how do we save time within the tendering process? So it is more of a niche. It's an easier target market than trying to encapsulate everyone across the whole chain of project management. So I think there's probably quite a bit of learning there.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, the I had a very good understanding of how that tendering process worked. I mean, I'd been consulting while trying to get this business off the go. I think I'd done probably 400 tenders myself over the last 3 years prior to the beginning of this year.
Get it. All right.
You start to apply a lot of those sort of pain points into, okay, well, our product could actually help sort this out and this out and this out.
Yes.
And then take that to market and ask people, show them what it does, but what kind of pain point that it solves. And for me, I did that in the early stages. I think I'd probably sat with 12 customers in the first month, and we all got to the basic understanding that I'm going to cut out 50% of your admin work here.
Yes.
And in comparison to what my competitors at that particular moment in time are offering, there's a lot more of a value add. So even though it's such a simple product, it addresses the pain points, and it adds more value than what they're currently using.
Get it. So, and in terms of simplicity is also often best. So the simpler your product can be, really, the easier it is for people to comprehend, the easier people to understand, to pick it up, to work with it. And if you're solving a clear problem that's right in their face day in, day out, it's much easier to get user buy-in. So yeah, there's good learning from what you're sort of saying there, Robert, for anyone that's out there designing product.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, I mean, had we tried to make this thing too complex, once again, I always look at the customer experience. When you log into a product and you want to use this, how complex is that to use? I've used some project scheduling tools before where I probably need an Oxford dictionary just to get through the first 5 weeks of using that level of software.
And then trying to understand acronyms.
So trying to address something, a simple pain point in a simple manner, and if you can do that, you'll get customers. You might not get a massive market or whatever, but you'll start to figure out where your product fit really lies. And for us, that's been our journey in the last year.
Okay.
Our product has evolved in such a way that my initial product, that MVP, has changed the way that we do business, or the way that Eazi-Tender has an offering to market, if I could put it that. Initially, we went in, we looked at one side of the market to say, okay, how do we cut down 50% of the pain and the struggle that you feel in that tendering space?
Yes.
And then we looked at the other side of the market that, in terms of who manages these tenders, how do they manage it? How digital is that process? Is there any innovation in that process? And our product has kind of evolved into a two-sided, one for the client, one for the institution that manages tenders. You wouldn't believe how that actually just happened in the space of 1 month.
Yeah, that's a bit quicker than 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's incredible to see, like you mentioned earlier, that you can create this minimal viable product, right? This MVP. But based on what you experience and what the customers are experiencing, your product can just evolve out of that. You don't even need to look at like right now. I probably still won't look at that entire construction software. Like I want to see how Eazi-Tender evolves and the additional components that they've sort of factored around that.
Because that's a place now that you're working in. Obviously, you've got generating customers from getting feedback from evolving that product. So how did you approach it now? Do you have a technical partner on board? Do you have some advisors on board? What's been the tipping point to actually?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a new partner, a new dev team on board. Guys that were a bit more flexible than the guys that did the MVP. And just in the fact that, you want a progressive unit. You want a team that, if I've got customers that come on board and they say, okay, well, we like how Eazi-Tender works, but can we do this, and this with it as well?
Yes.
Having that, so that was our pivotal moment. Like we had a new group of guys who were like, yes, bring that project on. We can definitely do this. And if I have to put it out there, that we're now working with our national government in terms of how we can digitize that for the entire sort of country.
Nice. Yeah,
So
huge.
how we can really simplify this, like that 50% component now could turn to a 70% component in terms of how we streamline that. And for both sides, one for the guy doing the tender,
Yes.
submitting the tender, and for the governmental departments that are running sort of separate manual or siloed processes into sort of one unit. So for us, I just needed a team that could kind of bring that willingness and the ability to do that, and capacity and interest. And at the same time, these guys had clients that were asking for similar things at the same time. So perfect synergy at the perfect time.
Yeah, so it's more having that collaborative relationship rather than the team that says yes and implements what you tell them to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we've heard that a few times from people. It's having just the yes people, just getting things done because you're asking them to, doesn't help you with the product. You need the people with a technical background to be able to assist and provide sort of that foresight that you don't have potentially because you're not in the technical space and know what's a limitation or what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these guys have brought so I mean, they have the technical experience, they have the digital sort of branding experience. So we kind of all come together in the same space. They've got the same goal that I have at the end of the day, is to turn this into some incredible product. And we've got clients at the moment who have come on board and said, okay, well, we can see that Eazi-Tender does this sort of in the procurement space. It's the first phase of a procurement sort of process. Can you now digitize our procurement space and our business around that?
Yeah, so you will potentially find yourself getting to where you plan to be 3 or 4 years ago, but evolving with the customer. Because once you're solving one problem, they'll ask you if you can solve another. That's another important point. Solve one key problem well, and eventually your customers will get you to where they want to be, which is maybe where you planned anyway.
It's very difficult to get them to change
everything at once.
Your way.
Yeah, I think once you've built that level of trust within a customer, they come in, they see that you built a reliable product, that you give the right level of service. You then start to work on that partnership as a more long-term, as on a more longer-term basis. So yeah, absolutely. I think that it's just how that relationship evolves. Like if you continue to add value, you'll definitely build a long-term client base out of that.
So in terms of, let's jump into adding value in terms of customer relationship. I think some people jump into a product development and they're looking to launch a product out into the marketplace, similar to where you sort of started. And it might be your idea in your head, but then you start to realize that you're probably in a better position if you involve the product or evolve it with your customers directly. And get buy-in directly with the customer, because in the end, they're the ones that are going to be buying the product, but they're also looking at more of not just a product, they're looking at a business they can work with and evolve with as well. So share a bit about, if you can, some of your customers' experiences with you and the sort of the journey you've taken them on from start to where they're going now.
Okay, so we're working with an electrical supplier. They've got a massive product line. I think they're about 65,000 products.
That's a huge number.
And I mean, our initial conversations with them were around sort of what their current processes were.
Yes.
What are they finding to be tedious, or what are their challenges? What are their, what systems are they using? And I mean, this particular client is probably using 6 or 7 different things or systems just to get the information about tenders, let alone they're running their internal process. And they've got a big team. I think it's 25 to 50 guys that are doing tenders on a daily basis. Wow. I think they do about 900 tenders a year minimum.
All right.
Okay.
So they're a busy team. They really have a lot on the go there. And what's been quite interesting is sort of how we've developed their solution around our MVP core base product. They now, we've seen that their biggest pain points obviously lies around getting pricing from suppliers. You can imagine if you've got a 65,000 product line.
Yes.
That's quite that process on its own could probably take 2 weeks or 3 weeks to finalize. So we found different key components, and we're now building the tools around that. So your client gets the sense of ownership that this is their process. How do they digitize that? How do they simplify that? And you build that we've built that into our core system. So we have the sort of central data points for them where it gives them the key information, but we build around their process. And I find that the more you build, you're not going to go change your client's process. You're really not. Like, unless you've got something that changes their whole business, which you're probably going to be quite reluctant to implement.
Yes.
If you build around your client process, and you don't change the person's day-to-day job, you just digitize it, you simplify it, you remove the admin component where it needs to be removed. You'll make a massive difference in your client's day-to-day operation. And I think that's where you start to build on that product-client relationship. You build that trust around that. They can see that they're getting value out of that partnership. And I think that's, with this particular client, that's where we're engaged with them at the moment.
So then adding value for them, is that something that you then build into your core product and offer to everyone? Or is it, or does everyone get like their own version of it with their own tweaks?
So no, it is something that we can add across the board. One of the biggest comments that came from them were negotiation on price due to the fact that you could roll this out with many of your other customers.
Yes, can happen.
So yeah, there are components that you can build on and you can sell out to market, which is always a great thing. But at the same time, there are components there that are strictly related to their business process, which remain obviously theirs. That's that component that keeps their business, that almost gives them their own competitive edge as well in a certain space. They maintain that competitive edge.
Okay. So some exclusive components that you're developing and some free to market. So, but really every client you're probably finding and dealing with, there's shared problems, there's shared issues that they have. You're solving one problem from this customer, yes, it can get transposed down to 10, 20, 30 more. So that's how you evolve your product. It's about evolving with your customers, servicing them, and then offering it out to other services. So would you say you're a product business or a service business? Because that's a question that I'd like to ask people that are in your space. Are you delivering product or delivering more from a consulting perspective?
That's a very interesting question, because I think it's a bit of both. You initially set out to be a product business. But I think as your business either pivots or whether your product evolves, you work around the service space in terms of that relationship between service and product.
Get it.
So I believe that we're a mixture of both, and I'm quite happy to keep it like in that space. I think they complement one another, and I think with product, in terms of my experience, that you are going to give that bit of, it might not be a big service component, but you're going to give some.
Yep, get it.
So it just depends on your business.
Yeah, and like I said to you, Robert, we've got a product that's in pharmacy space, and we sort of started out in a similar vein as you. Let's just build a product and try and sell it to market. But then over time, you start to realize that our expertise are more from consulting, developing, building product. Which is a massive advantage because we can walk into an organization, here's our product, but what are your challenges? What can we help you with? And that's been evolving our product. So it's a very similar sort of journey that you're on right now. We've been evolving our product with our customer. So I think that's a key point for anyone. Just be prepared, put a product out there, develop something basic that delivers value, but evolve it with your customers because you're going to get better buy-in. They're going to be with you for the long haul and not just going to shop around because they're just comparing feature to feature. They're now comparing, all right, here's your features, here's your services, but here's the product journey that we run with you. And it's a much bigger buying proposition for you, a bigger value statement for your business. So that seems like the path that you're on.
Yeah, I definitely think that, our journeys are so similar. Yeah. But I think that being able to evolve your business or have that level of flexibility that, my product can do X, but with my services or Y and Z, like you can really build that sort of partnership with your client.
Yep.
I think having that level of flexibility will take your business a lot further.
I think you've said flexibility about 10 times in this conversation, so it's clearly an important point for anyone. So being flexible. I think you mentioned about your dev team being flexible to the point of understanding what the customer wants and evolving product for them. Being flexible about how you approach everything is pretty pivotal in this day and age now with technology. You might have to be flexible around a feature set. You might have to be flexible around what you're delivering this week to next week. So it's one thing that people should remember. Don't get too stuck in on a product and a 2-year development. Be flexible around what you're doing day to day, week to week, month to month, and evolve with your
Especially
customer.
in the early stages.
Yeah, early stages. Be
Yeah.
open to
what
change.
you think your product will be, like
Yes.
your entire construction project management platform, and what ends up happening could be completely different, or a slight part of it, or
Yes.
something you didn't even think of.
Yeah, correct.
Depends how
Yeah.
where you go and where you see
Yeah.
the interest.
Yeah, so it becomes more of an entrepreneurial journey rather than a product building journey, because you are looking at solving problems, right? And you're finding problems along the way, and you've found a key problem. So let's solve that first. And finally, you've delivered that, and now you evolve from there. So
That just you sort of lose that just when you get to scale. Though.
yeah, you can lose that at
So
scale.
if you get to 10, 20, 30, 40,000 customers, you're not going to be able to service them
at the same level.
same level you are now.
Yeah.
You're going to have this is a fixed product.
Yes.
What affects most people, right? That's
Yes.
what we develop.
But the question can
Well,
be,
That's
I
Facebook,
think-
Instagram, YouTube,
yeah,
Google,
exactly.
all those sort of things. They get to that a certain size, and it's
Yes.
no longer how can we support each person. It's
Yeah.
what's going to support the
Yeah.
most amount of people.
But I think I think that once you've gotten your business to sort of that level where you've got that 30, 40,000 user customer base.
Yes.
Along that, you've done so much of that service work up to that point
Correct.
that you've built on all the additional things. You've kind of built that intelligence into your business.
Yep.
Yes.
That those just become the add-ons. I mean, if you if you look at a Facebook and stuff, you got the general communication platform there, but I mean the amount of services that they've built into that over time,
Yeah.
at scale, I think the aim there almost is to get to that point of now built up this huge client base.
Yes.
We built the smaller products around that. At a large scale, that turns like a medium business into a massive business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Different level altogether.
I
I think
think-
it's about retention and how to get more people in.
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the point is really what we're trying to say here is build a product, build with customers. You're going to solve a lot more customers' problems, and eventually you get to a tipping point where customers come to you because of the service you're delivering to all the other customers in the feature set.
Yeah.
And eventually you've solved enough problems that your feature set is big enough to service a mass market.
Yeah.
And that's probably where you're headed to, but it takes a lot longer than people think.
Yeah. Just be flexible in the beginning and have the ability to move and
Yes.
pivot and
Yeah.
change with the growing needs and demands.
I think it's a case of realizing that is going to be a journey. It's not going to be a quick thing.
Correct.
And sort of just have that flexibility along the way. Don't be too stuck into, okay, well, this was my idea and that's where we're going.
Yes.
Your business is going to evolve every day.
Mm-hmm.
Your product will evolve all the time. It's just about having, I think, the key partnership is what do your customers want? What do they need? And just build that relationship. Your product will build around that.
Yeah. Now, being a non-tech founder, we'll probably want to dig in just a little bit to wrap up the conversation around what are some of your key learnings, questions that you'd walk into? Just say you were to start again. Let's take it back. All right, we're here. You've got an idea about building this platform. What are some of the things you'd ask development partners, key points, key questions that you'd dive in and say, okay, can you do this? How can we work together?
Or
What's a collaboration journey?
what would you tell yourself
Yeah, what would you tell yourself?
that you need to know?
Geez.
Maybe that way it's probably easier.
I think there's a book that could be written.
It's not the first
Such a
person that
great
said that.
If I really had to look back at my journey now, and if I were to start a new product,
Yes.
I would do this in such a different way. Like I would basically create a very simple version of what I want. Speak to a few customers first to see whether there is definite interest. Instead of trying to go build this massive program and then try and see what I can do. And then go and sit with the technical guys. Go and understand firstly, what would be the best kind of technology to build this on, what would the cost be in this, and try and merge the two in terms of what that client is really looking for. Do they want something that's cloud-based? Do they want something, do they need access to that information all the time? And from a development perspective, I start to look at partners that already work or have developed products in that space. So not just going to a group of guys that, you're developers, but have you ever done a tendering system? Have you ever done a project management system? If these guys only specialize in e-commerce, they'll never say no to the work. Don't get me wrong. If I come there and I say, I've got $1 million for you,
Yes.
they're going to take the work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you want a team that have had experience in that space, who can really give you the insights in terms of when they've built that kind of a product before, that they had these kind of challenges, so they can really share insight with you in that space.
I think one of the key points there around that is sometimes it can be hard to find people that have built the exact same thing, just so people listening. So you don't have to find someone that's built the exact same product that you're trying to build. I think conceptually, you're trying to find someone that's can understand and work with you on the industry, but also then you're trying to build a SaaS product, right? A product that can sit in the marketplace and have different types of users and just get a feel of the type of technology they've delivered before, the type of scale that delivered before, because sometimes it can be challenging to find the same people that delivered exact product or slightly similar variants.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
you're
so
right.
that's just a point that I'd raise around that one there.
No, that is a valid point. But yeah, so I want to know that they've got the right level of experience, and that they would give you the right guidance along that journey. I wouldn't want anyone that's sort of going in that ideation phase to sit and go through that process for 3 to 5 years.
No, no, it's not fun.
That as an entrepreneur, I think that can eat your soul.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really a difficult journey. It makes your journey so difficult. So get that advisory, give the guys that can really guide you on that journey, get them involved as early as possible. If you spend a bit of money there, it's money well spent rather than wasting that money over 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things are customer first, work with your customers, get to know exactly what problems you're trying to solve, design a product with them, and find some good advisors or team, invest in them to actually help you along the journey. People that are going to help you understand the technology, easy to communicate with, are going to be flexible with your product build, because you are starting out from a product build perspective. So some good advice there. Anything else you want to add to that, Ev?
Yes, don't work with the yes people.
Yes, don't work with yes people. No.
Another way of saying that. Yeah.
I think we can make that the number one rule.
Yes. But people are going to challenge you, yes, both technically and your business model and your thinking, because yes, if you're working with good tech teams that have done it before and helped people along the journey, they're going to have different questions. They're going to know what works in the space, what sort of challenges that you may have, and just listen. Be prepared to listen to good people that have had good experience in the space.
The only thing they would lack if they haven't built a similar tool is having solved that problem the first time.
Yes.
But if they're a good team, they can solve it and sort of preempt some of those issues already.
Yes.
Yeah. Coding is coding. If they're a good team, they'll be able to do it. But there's some domain knowledge that might be specific to the construction industry where one team could excel on top of another.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think if you can just get that model right in the beginning, if you spend 6 months working with the sort of right advisors and the right, you get the right structure in place, you'll cut this journey down by half. I mean, if you go into a client who doesn't know what they want, and that journey is just going to take a really long time to get to the final product.
Definitely.
Get the right advisory team together. Really sit and work with the guys that are professionals in that space. You'll cut down that time to market at least by half.
I think most people are just stuck in the problem of not knowing what the right path should be.
Correct, yeah.
So if you had known that an advisor would help you up the front and finding a team that works with you, then you would have taken that move.
Yeah, away.
Hindsight, like they say, is always a great thing. So when you're going through something, it's hard to know that there's another way. And if you do think of that other way, you don't necessarily know it's better.
Well, in the end, Robert, that's why we're here. We're trying to educate people on a better path. And by sharing stories like yourself in terms of what the journey's been like, what the challenges you've had, we hope to waken some people up and just say, all right, get a good team, get an advisor on board, try and find someone technical that can help you. And work really with your customers. I think that's two pivotal points. If you're working directly with your customers and you've got a good team and a good advisory behind you, if you have to pay up front to help design your product, do that, because it will save you years of time. And sometimes that years of time may mean that product's past you because there's other competition out there in the marketplace too that's gone beyond you. So you just got to be conscious of that. Just so everyone's sort of gets a bit more perspective as to where you're leading to now. So how many customers you have on board? How's the product going? What sort of position are you in?
So with our pivot, we did our pivot now in September.
Yep.
We relaunched the marketing more to go towards the enterprise side.
Yes.
So if we close this deal now with our government, there'll be 800,000 users that would be in that space.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's the user base. Like that's the user base here that does tendering that are in that market. But I think from an enterprise perspective, like our focus will be there in terms of the value that we can really add holistically. We are looking to close another partner deal with another global brand as well in their EPC space.
Okay. Nice.
So I think a lot of our business, where there was a lot of sort of time spent on really following the side of that where people really do a lot of tendering themselves, we're going to try and by combining that product with our enterprise product, you give the holistic solution.
Yes.
So we'll still focus on that side, but we'll also focus on the enterprise side where we can, implement that holistically.
Get it.
So whether that's with big construction projects or big, or within government departments, or that process is the same throughout. If you're tendering for something, that process is the same process whether I'm doing it for this public sector client or for these kind of large scale sort of global brands or whatever. Yep. So right now, like that's our core focus, and I think we've created the solution that adds value there based on what the client pain point is, and I'm quite excited to see where 2020 goes in that respect.
Yeah, no, it's exciting if you land a contract of that caliber, and it's really. When did you start this new product? This was a year ago.
No, so the new product actually, I think around about August this year. So we just evolved Eazi-Tender from what the MVP was.
Okay.
Redesigned that. Re-looked at the entire thing.
Yes.
Did the redesign in August. Put it out to test the market in September.
Wow.
And incredible feedback from there.
Accelerated.
Yeah, it's accelerated, but you got to think about those 3 years of learning has gone into that, right?
Of course.
Yeah, if you knew all that up front, it'll take you 3 months. You got a product on board, and you collect a contract of that size. So yeah, it's the learning, and I think the knowledge and experience you gathered through that process. If we can help people through sharing stories like yourself, speed that up to be a 1 year, 2 year period rather than a 4 or 5 year period. I think we're doing justice for the ecosystem.
So hopefully there's someone listening with an idea and hasn't started yet, and you can set them on the right path and save them 1 or 2 years, some hair in their soul.
Yeah, but I think what you guys are doing here is fantastic. I think that value add, had I heard this 3-4 years ago, like it would be completely different. Yes. So like the value add in terms of that knowledge share is huge.
Cool. Now, Robert, I know you're doing a bit of help in terms of the startup space. So if you want to share sort of how people can connect with you, find out a bit about Eazi-Tender, go for it. Just tell a bit about how you're doing into the startup space.
So because I've struggled so much in that ideation to product space, I'm always happy to. I do help a lot of local startups who are trying to get to that point. I try to get them to market a lot quicker than what I did.
Very good. So giving back.
The best platform to get hold of me is either on our website, so www.eazi-tender.com. It's EAZI.
Yep. EAZI.
So my whole brand is around that Eazi brand, and or LinkedIn. So if you had to find me on LinkedIn, you'd see Eazi-Tender all over my page.
Yes.
I live my brand, so I live and I love it.
Yeah.
But like for me, it really is about sharing. If I can help any entrepreneur just get to market a bit quicker, a bit of advice, it can be the smallest thing. Like I help guys just with how to improve a company profile or something.
Yes.
Like just to share that knowledge that's taken me so long to gain, and I'm happy to do it.
No, very good. So if anyone wants to reach out to another founder on his success journey, feel free to reach out to Robert. So we'll put your details in on the show notes and how they can connect. So Thanks, Robert. Thanks for
Thanks,
joining
Rob.
us. Really appreciate you taking the time out in your day just to share your story and your journey thus far.
And good luck landing that contract.
Yes, good luck.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much, man. And I'll definitely, if I head off to Oz, I think it'll be maybe the first or second quarter next year.
Yeah.
I'll definitely come by and pop by and
Oh,
say
for
hello.
sure. We'll go grab a beer, grab some lunch, and take you out, show you Melbourne a little bit. Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. All right,
Cheers,
guys.
Robert.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.